All right, let's dive into one of history's greatest mysteries, the legendary, almost mythical wealth of King Solomon.
You hear stories, right? But ancient texts, they paint this picture of just unbelievable riches. And we're not talking about poetry here. According to some of the oldest writings, this was a literal description of Jerusalem, a kingdom so flush with gold that it was as common as, well, rocks on the ground. So that's the big puzzle, isn't it? Where did all this gold come from? Because no ancient text, not one, ever mentions Solomon digging for gold anywhere near his own kingdom. They all say his wealth came from somewhere else, brought in by this massive fleet of ships. So the real question becomes, where on earth were those ships coming from? Well, the texts give us a name, a mysterious, wealthy land called Ophir. For centuries, the hunt for King Solomon's mines has really been a hunt for this lost land. The thinking was pretty simple. If you can find Ophir, you've found the source of his incredible power.
All right, so where do you even start looking for a lost land? Well, early on, the search cast a really wide net. We're talking continents, sparking all kinds of theories from every corner of the globe.
The first big leads actually took investigators to Asia. See, they had this shopping list, basically, of all the goods brought back on Solomon's ships. Gold, sandalwood, ivory, apes, the works. And they tried to find a place that had it all. And that trail pointed straight towards the Indian subcontinent.
And at first, the evidence looked pretty promising. Some theories zeroed in on Sri Lanka, claiming there was a linguistic link to the name Ophir. Others pointed to India's Kerala state, where all those trade goods were super plentiful. But, and this is a big but, it was all just speculation. There were no ruins, no inscriptions, absolutely no hard archaeological proof was ever dug up. So, a dead end.
So, with the Asian theories hitting a brick wall, the hunt shifted gears and moved to Africa. European explorers started hearing these local legends about ancient kingdoms with immense gold wealth, and they got convinced they'd finally found Ophir. I mean, even the famous explorer Vasco da Gama wrote that a local kingdom's name sounded a lot like.
Now, the most famous African theory, the one you've probably heard of, centers on the incredible ruins of Great Zimbabwe. This place was the heart of a huge gold trade, and it was even romantically linked to the Queen of Sheba. When European explorers stumbled upon the site, they were absolutely certain this was it. This had to be Ophir. But modern science tells a very different story. Decades of research have come up with, well, nothing. Zero archaeological evidence connecting these amazing ruins to the 10th century BCE, which is when King Solomon lived. So, another dead end.
Okay, so after chasing these globe-trotting theories all over the map, the investigation starts to focus a lot closer to home, right there in King Solomon's backyard, the Arabian Peninsula.
Yemen seemed like such an obvious candidate, right? I mean, it's the historical land of the Queen of Sheba, it's packed with ancient civilizations, and you can go to museums and see stunning gold artifacts from there. Geologists even confirmed that, yep, there are ancient gold mines. But, you guessed it, the timeline just doesn't work. Again, none of the mines they've dug up can be conclusively dated all the way back to Solomon's time. But then, a discovery in neighboring Saudi Arabia looked like it was about to change everything. Geologists were studying this ancient mine called Ma'd ad-Dhahab, and that name literally means cradle of gold. They decided to use some modern science on the huge piles of slag, the waste left behind by ancient miners.
So they used radiocarbon dating on that ancient slag, and the date they got back was 961 BCE.
Okay, this was an absolute bombshell. For the very first time, we have hard, physical evidence of huge-scale mining at a specific spot that dates perfectly to King Solomon's reign. I mean, perfectly. A lot of people thought, that's it, case closed, but of course the story was about to take another wild twist.
You see, a new team of archaeologists came along and proposed a pretty radical idea. They asked a really simple question that basically challenged the entire foundation of the search.
And that question was, what if we've been looking for the wrong thing this whole time? Think about it. Gold is for wealth, for luxury, for showing off. But to build a kingdom, to actually construct temples, forge tools, and equip armies, you need an industrial metal. You need copper. So what if Solomon's legendary mines weren't for gold at all, but for copper? This whole new theory led a team, headed up by archaeologist Thomas Levy, to a site in Jordan with a very telling name, Khirbet en-Nas. And that translates to ruins of copper. And when they got there, it was this massive, ancient industrial site, just completely covered in black slag from smelting metal.
And the science they did here was super rigorous. I mean, these archaeologists dug down deep, over 20 feet, past all these layers of sediment to get to the very earliest signs of activity. Then they took organic samples, stuff like charcoal from the old furnaces, and sent them off for carbon dating. And the result? The most intense period of production at the ruins of copper was the 10th century BCE, the exact time of King Solomon. Unbelievable.
So here we are. After centuries of searching, chasing legends all over the globe, the mystery still isn't solved. In fact, it's actually become more complex, and honestly, a lot more interesting. Because we've moved past all the speculation and the folklore, today we have two leading candidates for Solomon's mines, and each one is backed up, not by myths, but by the hard science of radiocarbon dating.
So this is where the investigation stands right now. On one hand, you have the Cradle of Gold in Saudi Arabia, a massive gold mine active at the exact right time. And on the other hand, you have the ruins of copper in Jordan, a huge industrial-scale copper mine also active at the exact right time. Both theories are totally plausible, scientifically speaking.
And that leaves us with one final, fascinating question. What was the true source of King Solomon's legendary power? Was it the flashy, glittering gold that we always hear about, the stuff of wealth and luxury? Or was it the humble, industrial copper, the metal that actually built the foundations of his kingdom? For now, the search continues.